So the latest carts have been delivered. We've got 3 arcade collections and the final console collection of the year. We've got Toaplan Arcade 3, Dazed Arcade 2, Toaplan Arcade 4 and Metal Dragon Life on Mars. Now the last 2 carts were supposed to be due in December, but they've obviously delivered all 4 carts at once at the end of November, which is pretty cool. So I'm not going to look at them all in the same video, I'm going to sort of look at them separately. We'll start with Toaplan Arcade 3 and we'll work our way through in different videos. Anyway guys, without further ado, let's get stuck in to the first collection. Okay guys, so let's have a look at Toaplan Arcade 3. This is arcade number 11, and you wait forever for arcade collections and they all seem to come at once. It comes complete with 7 games, and I have to say I'm definitely looking forward to this one. I'm not a huge fan of shooters, but I know after playing some of these games, these are probably some of the best shoot 'em ups and probably even Toaplan's best collection yet on Evercade. Could it even be one of the best carts overall on Evercade? And it comes complete with 7 Toaplan hits. Get blasting with the Batsugun and stunning sequel Truxton II. Now what I don't like about these cover, it doesn't actually list the names of all the games on the collection, which is a little bit of an oversight surely. So just jumping in here, the games are actually listed, as you can see I've circled them there, but it's absolutely tiny, you would completely miss it. Now this isn't the same for every collection released now. If you look at the Dazed Arcade 2, there is no listing of all the games within the box art at the back, which is a bit weird. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but I think they really should add the games list because it's a little bit of an oversight. If you picked this up, you would have no idea what was on the collection. Anyway, let's have a look inside. So obviously you get your lovely cart, which looks fantastic, and there's also a few things in the box. Oh, we've actually got some stickers. Ooh. It's been a while since we've got some stickers from any of these collections, so that's a nice touch. There you can see all the 7 games, I guess, now by looking at the stickers. We've got Vimana, Truxton II, Batsugun, Batsugun Special Edition. We've got Outzone, FixEight and Ghox. So that's nice, we've got some stickers. It's been such a long time since we had stickers, I can't even remember the last one. So let's have a quick look at the manual before we sort of play it on the EXP, and obviously we'll play it on the VS on the sort of larger screen for you. So obviously this is the 3rd cart from the Toaplan collections. Amazingly, we have some real crackers here. It's brilliant that we now have some of these. We've got Batsugun and Batsugun Special Version. And hopefully the turbo fire functions will work for some of these games because it will make a massive difference. And I've got Outzone, really cool. I've seen some of these games on the Steam library on PC and they are probably about £6, £7, something like that each. So the fact that we've got this cartridge on Evercade is actually really good value for money, and a lot of these games never really got console versions either, so it's something of a decent value collection, I would say. And there's a lot of information here about all the games in this manual, which is obviously always a nice touch. There's quite a few pages per game, which is nice, and I'm looking forward to playing some of these. I'll probably have a quick shot on the EXP and then we'll play it on the VS and you can have a look at the games properly, and I'll give you my opinions on the games and what I think. But anyway guys, let's get stuck in. Let's have a quick look on the handhelds first. Now there's no doubt probably the best way of playing this particular cart is most likely going to be the EXP, because all of these games have vertical aspect ratio, and you've got that tatty mode button at the bottom where you can obviously swivel and play this way. So for sure these are absolutely smashing games, and I really enjoy it, but probably need to be wary. It's probably not going to be great for the Super Pocket because obviously it's got that small screen, so it will not be ideal. Just remember you've got the Y button for turbo fire in many of these games, and it makes a massive difference where you don't need to keep pressing the button down to actually play. You can just hold down the actual button. So sound wise on the EXPR, it's very varied. I found a lot of games are just way too quiet. Some games are absolutely fine, like this game sounds fine, but if you compare it to the Super Pocket, it really is night and day sometimes. But anyway, let's have a look at the game. This is probably the best way of actually playing the game, but unfortunately the turbo fire button is not actually mapped, so it would be nice to maybe map that instead to this button rather than just the standard fire, to make the game a little bit easier, I guess. But maybe that'll be something that will happen in a future update. Now sadly, probably the Super Pocket isn't the best way of playing these games, and as you can see I'll probably stretch the screen, which just makes it really look awful. So playing it in original aspect ratio, it makes it pretty small on the screen. It really isn't ideal at all. But can you hear the sound difference with the Super Pocket? Sorry if it's too loud, I'm just making some small point here. This Super Pocket sound is so much better than the EXP. Now don't forget guys, you can also play these games on the Evercade Alpha and they play brilliantly. Even though the Toaplan Arcade 3, all the games are in the Tate mode, vertical aspect ratio, I think there's still a big enough screen to make the games play fantastically well and look acceptable on that screen. And obviously I will probably cover that in a separate video, going over all the 3 new arcade carts just playing on the Alpha. But yeah, they are fantastic on the Alpha. So we're going to start with Batsugun, probably one of Toaplan's best ever games. Quite surprising we've had to wait to the 3rd Toaplan collection to get this, and I absolutely love it, and I'm not even a fan of shoot 'em ups. Don't forget that Y button for the turbo fire. At the start of the game you've also got the option of choosing from 3 different sort of fighters or ships. They do vary a little bit from, obviously you can see the firepower there, but you get the chance to upgrade each of these as you go through by collecting the P icons, and it will continuously upgrade throughout the game, and it doesn't actually go away as well, which is quite nice, although it does vanish once you actually lose a life. But if you collect the P again you'll get it back, which is quite cool. There's also other things to pick up, but most of the other things you pick up, that the arrows are relating to maybe extra points. But what an absolute cracking game, visually superb, sounds amazing. Amazing fun to play. Obviously the bosses do get harder as you progress. The later bosses seem to take forever to actually die, but the best part about this game is, even for me, is if you die, just insert another coin and you continue from where you left off. I love that aspect. I hate the games that you get sent back to checkpoints, or maybe you've only got 3 lives and that's it, game over, you can't even continue. For an arcade game it's great that you've got that ability to basically just keep carrying on till you finish it, and I absolutely love this game. It is a little bit short, right enough, it's only got 5 stages, but it's brilliant stuff, and probably one of the most visually impressive shoot 'em ups I think I've seen on Evercade yet. So if you haven't had enough of Batsugun, you've now got the special edition or special version of the game. It is more or less the exact same game, though it has got some subtle changes here and there. It's got a smaller hitbox on the ship. Now, I thought that the hitbox on Batsugun, the original version, was really generous. I think, if you can probably see in the video, you could easily move left to right and miss some of the bullets quite easily. So it was already quite generous in that game. There's a new sort of shield system, there's more powerful bombs, and there's much more difficult loops around the game after completing it once. So if you complete the game, it'll basically loop round and it'll get more and more difficult. Whereas if you completed the first version of Batsugun, that was it. It's basically done, and that's it. So if you obviously enjoyed the original version, you can play this and challenge yourself further still. It's another excellent game. I think that the graphics looked a little bit different as well, as far as I could tell. It's maybe slightly different colour palette, but for the best part, it is pretty much the same game. Next up, we've got FixEight, and this one really surprised me. It might even be one of my most favourite games on here, apart from Batsugun. That's by far the best game on here. So this is almost, as they say here, a spiritual successor to Outzone. It plays a little bit similar, but I don't think it's anywhere near as difficult as Outzone. And you've got the ability to choose between 8 different fighters, which is really surprising, and they all differ quite dramatically so, and I was quite impressed. It's like a top-down game in the style of maybe like Mercs, something like that. It's obviously not Mercs, but that's probably the best way of describing it. As you can see here, you can choose between 8 different fighters, and they are all very, very different. That is quite generous for any game to give you that option whilst playing it. And like the other games, you can hold down the Y button for your turbo fire. The best way is basically just to keep on moving. If you stand on that sort of colourful square, it changes your weapons, sometimes good, sometimes bad. I think you can switch between them by pressing the other button. I'm not entirely sure, but anyway, if you stand on that square, it does give you a different weapon, and sometimes it's a little bit frustrating. It gives you one that's a little bit inferior. But I found the best way in this game is just try your best to keep on going, and as I said, sometimes you get a little bit disadvantaged if you get a weapon that doesn't quite suit, so you probably need to experiment a little bit. But what a cracking game this is. Does get a little bit frustrating in some of the other levels where you need to cross different platforms that are moving, and it definitely made me swear a little bit as well. In some of the games on this collection, I was definitely getting a little bit frustrated, but this game is nowhere near as frustrating as maybe like Outzone and maybe Truxton II. Those are probably the 2 toughest games on the collection. Gladly, this one you can just put in a continue and carry on from where you actually died, which I love in these games, and it takes away that frustration level. Obviously, if you don't want to play that way, you can just ignore it and maybe just challenge yourself to 1 credit type of thing. But for me, I absolutely loved this game. I think it's excellent, and as I said, probably one of the better games on the cart, which is full of cracking games, as you'll probably no doubt see throughout the video. So next up we've got Ghox, and this is a nice change from the other games on this cart. This is like a Breakout style clone, and the idea is to try and bat the ball back up and clear all the blocks at the top of the screen, and the levels vary each time. There's a lot of enemies as well appear on the screen. There's a lot of different pick 'em ups as well. It does get quite frantic. Sometimes it's not clear. I got distracted quite a lot, and rather than trying to bat the ball back, I was too busy trying to collect the fairies or collect the gems or collect some score multipliers. And you can see you can actually move the character up and down as well, but quite often I was missing those balls to bounce them back up, which was really a bit frustrating. I absolutely sucked at this game. I'm going to blame the D-pad or something, because it really was quite tricky. Interestingly, I thought it was a lot better on the joystick on the alpha. It was easier to control. On the D-pad, maybe just a tad sensitive, although it's a lot more playable than Breakout on the Atari collection, for example. It's good fun, very good fun. The later levels get a little bit boring sometimes. I feel that the game just keeps going on, and you're kind of out of the control of the game. You can hold down the B button and it will basically quicken the gameplay up a little bit, but yeah, it's definitely very tough to hit that ball back. I definitely liked the game, it was good, but it's probably one of the weakest games on the collection. That's not saying a lot, because it is full of cracking games, no doubt about it. But this one probably pales in significance to some of the other games on the collection, sadly, but still worth playing nonetheless. Next up we've got Outzone, and this is by far the toughest game on this collection. Obviously Truxton II is very hard, but this one made me swear more than any other game on here. I got very, very frustrated. And this one is just like Truxton II, it doesn't continue from where you actually die, and once you're out of lives, that's it, it's game over. So very, very frustrating indeed. And it's tough. If you want a challenge, this is probably the game you want to come to first. It's a little bit like FixEight. I think this one obviously came before FixEight, but for me, probably the toughest game on here. Very frustrating. No doubt it screams quality. Everything about it is fantastically well done. You can upgrade your weapons as well by pressing those C buttons. Collect the P for, I think it's more power in the shots, but sometimes when you're picking up the C, it changes to a weapon that probably doesn't quite suit, and once you sort of lose that sort of momentum when you're playing this game, it's sometimes hard to actually recover from it. And I got very, very frustrated, and especially when I got to the end boss on the first level, it took me ages to actually pass it, and I kept on I swore quite a lot. It was so frustrating. Obviously that will not be in the video, but I have to stress, this is a tough game. Quality, no doubt, but quite easily the most difficult game to play on here. But as you can see, it screams quality, but wow, it is difficult as heck. So moving on to Truxton II, I was a big fan of the original game, although it was very difficult and pretty frustrating at times. But this one is pretty much more of the same, pretty frustrating, pretty tough, but very, very good quality. It has some great music in it as well, and I enjoyed it to a point, but it does get ferociously tough, and one of the worst things about it is when you die you get sent back to sometimes the start of the game or to certain checkpoints throughout the sort of level, which is very, very frustrating. So if you like your challenging sort of shoot 'em ups, then this is the one to go for. Quality all over it, no doubt about it, but wow, it is amazingly difficult. Now, interestingly enough, I did actually get into a good rhythm, which you'll probably see in this video, and the sort of cut coming up very soon. And I'm just going to leave it completely uncut because I was totally amazed how far I was getting without actually dying. So I probably impressed myself. I'm not sure if it was skill or just complete fluke, and I really enjoyed it. But after that, I lost the flow, and then I just couldn't get it back again. Once you sort of lose the firepower that you've built up, it's difficult to get back into the game again. Which is a little bit frustrating. No doubt, an absolutely amazing game, some great sort of weapons there, but very, very difficult. Just a little bit like Outzone, probably the toughest two games on this cart for sure. Great, but very, very difficult. So something else I would like to add here is I would really like, hopefully, for Blaze to add those dip switches to the arcade games. It will make a massive difference to some of those tougher games on the arcade collections. And this one and Outzone are two of the toughest. It would be nice to sort of make the games just a little bit easier, please. Right, final game on this cart is Vimana No Way Out, as it says there, and this is probably the weakest of all the shoot 'em ups on the collection, but it isn't actually too bad. I did enjoy it for what it was. The only problem I found with the game was that it was just a little bit boring. It becomes quite relentless. There's not an awful lot of break in the play when you're playing through the game. It kind of just keeps on going and going and going, and there's occasional what you might think there's like an end of level boss, but then you kill that and it just keeps going. There's no massive break, and it does get a little bit tedious, but there's no doubt it is quite good quality. Don't forget you can hold down the standard fire button to release that sort of shot, as you can see there on the screen, or you can just press the turbo fire button and continuously fire as normal. Not sure what's more effective. Some sort of mix between the two would be fine. You've also got a special power button where you put the sort of little balls around you and you can automatically try and take everything out on the screen, which is actually really nice. It's a lot different to the usual sort of kill everything on the screen bomb effect that you usually get in these games. But I enjoyed it, I definitely enjoyed it, but I just got quite bored playing through it. As you can probably see by the gameplay, it just becomes a little bit samey, it just keeps coming, it's unrelentless. It's actually quite an exhausting game to play through because there's not an awful lot of breaks in the gameplay. It is good, just gets a little bit tedious. Okay guys, finally I'm going to look at the secret games. So if you don't know what the secret unlockable games are, you can stop watching now. If you've got a copy of Toaplan Arcade 2, you can put this into your VS. It will also unlock an additional game called Tiger Heli, and this is the NES version, I believe, that we have here. We have the arcade version on Toaplan Arcade 1, I think. But this is the NES conversion, and it's pretty good. There's nothing really wrong with it. It's very nice. Probably not quite as tough as the arcade version, and a little bit more enjoyable to play, although there's nowhere near as many enemies on the screen at the one time, obviously due to the limitations with the NES, and sometimes there's a little bit of flickering, but it's quite good fun to play, and it's nice that they've added a game. I thought I might as well show you the other secret game. If you've got Toaplan Arcade 4 Anti, you can put them into your VS at the same time and also unlock a secret game, which is Snow Brothers. I think this is the NES conversion as well. So it's really nice that they've added these secret unlockable games. Nothing spectacular, but it's always nice to see some extra games added, and gives a little bit more further value to your collections, especially if you've got a VS at home. This is quite nice, probably not quite as fun as playing the arcade version, but it's worth having a quick go anyway. It's nice enough, but nothing too spectacular, but it's fun enough for 5 minutes. So my final thoughts on Toaplan Arcade 3, I think it's absolutely superb. Some excellent shoot 'em ups on here, and I'm not even a fan of these shoot 'em ups, but I thoroughly enjoyed FixEight. I really loved Batsugun, real quality games. The others are all really good as well. There's not really a bad game on here. There's some good challenging stuff, and it's certainly Toaplan's best arcade collection yet on Evercade, and could possibly well be one of Evercade's best ever carts. Thanks for watching.